Hi. Thank you for joining us on our Ignite the Truth journey through the Bible. I'd like to talk to you today about the book of Esther. So would you join me in reading chapter 2, verse 7? And Mordecai had brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. Hadassah, that is Esther. Now we know that Hadassah was Esther's Hebrew name. But have you ever wondered where the name Esther came from? Well, actually, it's really simple. In the Hebrew, Esther comes from a three-letter root word which means hidden. And of course, that's a critical element of the story. Esther had to be hidden. Now, there's another word that comes from that same root that is part of a very common biblical phrase. The phrase is Hester Panim. Hester means hiding, and Panim means face or presence. It's almost exclusively used of God, and it means hiding of the face or hiding of the presence. It's the hiding of the face of God from human perception. Think of it like the sun on a very, very cloudy day. You can't see it, you can't feel it. That doesn't mean it's gone, it just means it's hidden from you. And as we read through the scriptures, we see that often throughout Jewish history, God chose to hide his presence from his people. Now, some teachers say that was punishment. Other teachers say it was God hiding his face from the pain of his people. Other teachers say it was the natural outgrowth of the choices that his people made as they just slowly drifted away from him. But regardless of the scenario, one thing was common to all. That was that the Jewish people had lost their sense of purpose. They were no longer loving God with their heart, soul, mind, and strength. They were no longer living their lives according to his instruction. They were no longer interested in being a light to the nations. And the sages tell us that at the time of Esther, it was a time of Hester Panim. Many of the Jewish people in Persia had fallen into that trap. They had lost their sense of purpose. They were beginning to look more like the people, the pagans around them, than like the men and women that God wanted them to be. They were, in fact, assimilating. And the natural consequences of that were disastrous. An edict went out from the king that every Jewish person in the entire kingdom was to be slaughtered, and there was nothing they could do about it. So Mordecai challenges Esther, who is now queen, to use her influence to save the Jewish people. And Esther recognizes her purpose, and she does exactly that. But in the process, she sends out a call to the Jewish people throughout the entire kingdom of Persia. And she orders them, instructs them to fast for 3 days, to pray, to fall on their faces before the God of Israel, to humble themselves and cry out for the salvation of the Jewish nation. Remembering, of course, that some of those Jewish people were actually assimilated or assimilating, but all of them were under that edict. So I believe that when Esther did that, she not only saved the Jewish people physically, but she also saved them spiritually. Because as they fasted, as they joined in the prayers for the nation of Israel, they remembered who they were. They remembered they were the chosen people. Their hearts were invigorated with the covenant love of God, his love for them and their love for him. And their sense of purpose was restored to them. They knew that, like Esther, they had been called into the kingdom for just such a time as this. Purpose is very important. And I think in the day in which we are living, for Christians all over the world, it's very easy for us to lose our purpose, forget our purpose. We're busy. We get distracted. We don't pray enough. We don't read our Bibles enough. We don't fellowship enough. And suddenly we find ourselves drifting from the Lord. Now, for some, that the natural consequences can be disastrous again, falling away, sin in their lives. But for others, just complacency. Again, just that drifting away from the Lord. And so, like many in Esther's day, we begin to look more like the world around us than like the men and women that God wants us to be. We focus more on the things of the world than the things of God. We are, in effect, assimilating. But the glorious thing about our God is that the minute we recognize that that's happening, the minute we cry out to Him in our need, He turns His face toward us and we are restored. Our purpose is restored. Now, Esther was chosen by God. That means she was knit together in her mother's womb purposefully to be alive at a very specific time in history to achieve a very specific purpose. Purpose. So as believers, what is our purpose? Well, I think it's simple. I think no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, no matter how big that might be or how small that might be, it's always the same. It never changes. Our purpose is to love the Lord our God with all our mind and soul and heart and strength. Our purpose is to live our lives according to His instruction. Our purpose is to be a reflection of His love and His mercy, His kindness and His goodness. Our purpose is to, at all times, bring honor and glory to His name. That's our purpose. And I want to encourage you that like Esther, just like Esther, you were chosen. You were knit together in your mother's womb to be alive at this very specific time in history, to achieve a very specific purpose, just like Esther. And we know what that purpose is. And so I want to encourage you not to forget that you, my friend, you were called into the kingdom for just such a time as this.